All right, guys, welcome to your Kayak Adventure Series Shoaliepalooza eligible water video. Yeah, guys, this is a pretty cool thing I'm going to do for every tournament stop. We're going to sit and look at the water that's in play, that's in bounds here, as you can see as we zoom into Thomaston, Georgia, our host city. Now, this video, I want to explain what it is before I get started. This is not the rules. This is not a mandatory watch. This is not, anything like that at all. This is simply because this map is interactive on each tournament page. So this is me just quickly breezing through the entire thing just to help get you guys pumped up, man. Get you excited about where you're going to fish and some of the places you're allowed to fish. And I'm essentially just going to show you guys the core bodies of water for the event that we're going to list. So for this event, it's the Chattahoochee River, the Flint River, the Ocmulgee River, and High Falls Lake and Lake Juliet. These are your core bodies of water. Now, everything in this whole area flows into that core body of water. So essentially all the water in this sort of zone here is in bounds. And if it's free flowing into a core body of water that we list, you are good to go. What I mean by free flowing is if you go upstream from, the river, for example, the Flint River here, you went upstream up a tributary that's flowing into it. Let's see right here if we can find one. Here's a tributary. So let's say if you were to go up this creek right here, you can put in at this bridge, as long as it's a legal access, you can put in there. And if you get to a dam, then it's still fine as long as it's a spillway dam. A spillway dam are the ones that are just running the river. They're keeping the river just free flowing. There's a big difference in a spillway dam and this right here. Do you understand? When you come up this little dinky, if I could say that word, creek right here, and you get, if there was, this is Gum Creek, this is a great example. If there was enough water to really even, have any sizable fish here, and you found your way going up Gum Creek to fish, and you got to this right here, this dam, that's not a spillway dam. That's not a free-flowing, the river type dam. Therefore, and this is the same way a farm pond works. There's a pipe right here in the middle, right? A drain that the water goes out and it goes underneath the dam. Typically it goes under the dam. These are the kind of dams that are always off limits when you hit that coming up a tributary, which includes, of course, farm ponds, things like that. They're always going to have these pipes. The water goes underneath it. Now, if there's a place, which there are several in this boundary here that's over the Ocmulgee River, I'll just show you real quick. Again, I want to clear this up. This is a spillway dam right here. These are just running the river type dams. You see, those are always eligible to go portage up and over. And even if it was up a tributary off the Ocmulgee River here, that would be fine to launch above and fish above, no problem. It's only when you get to an actual lake, like we just showed you guys, with a dam that's got with the water going underneath it, and it's no longer connecting, the fish and the ecosystem whatsoever, unless a major flood. So that explains that, hopefully, and we'll move on now. Again, read it all in the rules. We have a flow chart there to help you understand where public access is. And if you still have questions, just hit us up. We've got our phone number right here on the tournament page for the tournament director. We also have an email address. You can send us an email. We don't mind helping you guys out, because the last thing we want is someone to be disqualified because they were fishing somewhere that was not legal. But I'm telling you right now, the more you guys sort of fish these events and you understand, this actually is not hard at all. It's actually very easy to understand. So let's get to it. Eligible water. Chattahoochee River. This is a downstream launch boundary. All of our upstream and downstream boundaries are launch boundaries, which means you can go certainly further downstream, all the way, down into Lake Harding here if you want. And that's no problem. According to the rules, if you read them, you can even take out down here somewhere else as long as it's public access. You just have to launch. This is the furthest downstream we want you to launch. And why do we do that? Well, if you go far away from here, we want you to be able to not have to go all the way back. And, we want you to be able to explore new water and take out somewhere else if you want. But in general, we just don't want people getting too far away from our host city, which is Thomaston, Georgia, about an hour away. So just want to keep people close enough so we have an upstream and downstream launch boundary for most of the rivers on the Kayak Adventure Series. This is the middle Chattahoochee River. Super scenic, great largemouth, Alabama bass, shoal bass. There are a couple spillway type dams in this section. So be aware of those. You can portage above them or around them, and or you could just single access and fish the kind of slower water sections above them. No problem. As you move up here, you'll see the upstream launch boundary, and that is the park here. It's called Hardley Creek Park. So Hardley Creek Park it is, right below Lake West Point Dam. And that is your middle Chattahoochee. You guys are going to really have a good time exploring that area. Now, moving on. Flint River, which goes right through pretty much Thomaston, Georgia, our host city. The downstream launch boundary. Let's start here. This is in a section of the Flint that locals would call, or you would call, the Middle Flint. So the Middle Flint has a little bit more sand in it, and it's a little snakier, and our downstream launch boundary is Crook's Landing. Again, feel free to go further down from that launch boundary, and you can see it's just a little snakier. It's got more sand, and you might see some oxbows and cool places you can find and explore. Probably doesn't get quite as much as attention of the attention that the Upper Flint does, with more of the rocks and shoals and typical shoal bass habitat when you think of shoal bass. As you can see, you zoom in here, you can see all the rocks and shoals and how it gets a little wider. That's your typical shoal bass habitat right here. But the Flint, guys, absolutely beautiful river. You guys are going to love fishing the Flint River. It's one of the famed, shoal bass rivers of these three for sure. And it's free flowing all the way from basically where it starts at the base of the Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson Airport, right here on the south side of town. That's kind of where it starts, and you'll see there's no upstream launch boundary on the Flint. And whenever in the Kayak Adventure Series you see there is no upstream or downstream launch boundary, that pretty much just tells you we feel like it peters out to the point where there's no use in even putting it. Just go up as far as you want, up any tributary, off that, as far as you want, because about an hour away north is about the point where that river gets kind of so small it becomes irrelevant in terms of any sizable fish anyway. So we'll let you guys determine how far you want to go up the Flint River. And now moving over to the Ocmulgee River, again, about an hour away from Thomaston, Georgia, is downtown Macon. And downtown Macon here, this is the Spring Street Landing. And yeah, sometimes the river can look like that. But as you zoom out here, usually it's a green color. Hopefully it will be for our event. The Ocmulgee River, the Spring Street Landing, is your downstream launch boundary. As you go up here, you'll see, keep rolling. Again, Ocmulgee, also super beautiful river, beautiful shoals, just a really, really nice fishery. You guys are going to catch largemouth Alabama bass and shoal bass in this river. They're not native. The shoal bass are not native to the Ocmulgee River. They were put in there late 70s, early 80s, and of course kind of took off from there, given that river has great shoals and habitat for them to reproduce naturally. So right below Lloyd Shoals Dam here, the Georgia Power boat ramp on the Ocmulgee River is your upstream launch boundary. As far north on that river as you could go. And then now let's talk about your lakes that are in bounds. Lake Juliet. You're not going to find shoal bass here, guys, because shoal bass don't really live in lakes. You rarely catch them in a lake. They just prefer the rivers and the moving water there and the shoals. Hence, shoal bass, right? So Lake Juliet gets water pumped in from the Ocmulgee River, and that's why it's so clear here. You don't really have a true river or creek feeding it. You got a small one up here. Maybe it's called Rum Creek, I believe, but that has a little stain up there. But yeah, you can see it's a clear water reservoir. It's beautiful. I mean, you'll notice there's no houses, there's no docks. It's just pristine, just very, very pretty. Might find some grass in the lake and that clear water growing. So if you're a lake angler, that's definitely one you're going to enjoy exploring. It doesn't get the attention of these other big lakes around Georgia because it's not quite big enough for, these big bass boat tournaments to go there, but definitely a hidden gem in the middle of the state here. Another hidden gem and a great kayak-friendly lake, given its size and the restrictions with horsepower, is High Falls State Park Lake. So, or High Falls Lake, I should say. I don't know if it's technically a state park lake. But, yeah, great lake here. It's got a little bit more stain. You can see it's got a couple creeks that feed it. There's one called Buck Creek, which might be that one there. And the Tualaga River is the other one. So, you guys are really going to enjoy fishing High Falls Lake. If you are into fishing docks and more, things like that, you'll notice this lake has a lot more of that, houses on it and whatnot. So man-made structure, I should say. There's your docks, your typical docks, things like that. So big largemouth in there. Again, I'm not sure if there's Alabama bass in there yet. Big largemouth for sure. So don't overlook that. Shoal bass is certainly going to dominate this event, given that's what we're here to catch. And it's on a lot of people's bucket list, I'm sure. And the fact that they do get big and long enough, of course, to win this event. I mean, I've caught one 24¼ inches, 7 pounds, 2 ounces. I've actually caught a couple that size. So shoal bass is certainly where the Shoaliepalooza, is going to be focused around. However, don't forget, this is still just a black bass tournament, so it could be a little sneaky. Somebody could go off the wall and target Alabama bass or largemouth and potentially pull this off. So, guys, I cannot wait to see you guys on May 3rd and 4th at Shoaliepalooza. This has been your eligible water video. I hope you guys learned something and you're just as excited as we are. We'll see you there.